my favorite t-shirt which says bad luck makes for great stories, which is fitting because today I'm going to open up my proverbial kimono and let you ask me anything. And several of you have already submitted some amazing questions. I've gotten questions from the list, I've gotten questions from this group, I've gotten questions from team, I've gotten questions from clients. So I've got a whole bunch of questions that I'm going to answer. And if you're here live, you get to ask me questions live. Anything, personal, business, you name it, let's go. Hello, so I have my questions right here. Now I'm going to try and make sure that I don't blow up the sound here. All right, so we're going to start with a question from Nit. Ooh,
Whoa.
Okay, Pat's talking to my ear. He's like,
replay.
whoa.
No, I'm live now. I'm live with you. Hashtag replay. Let's do a
Hashtag
little bit
replay,
of...
that's true.
Yeah,
I'm
oh my
forgetting everything. I'm
God,
just like,
yeah.
ask me anything.
All right, it's
Just
on the
ask me.
screen. It's on the screen. Hashtag
Okay,
replay.
you're watching the replay.
Jeez.
Give me a big old hashtag replay. And if you have a question for me that I didn't answer in here, or if a question's coming up for you, pop that in the comments. And if we get enough great questions, I'll do another one and I will answer all your questions because I want you to know whatever it is you want to know. All right. So I see Kundan is here, Nomita is here, Melissa is here, Reina is here with the popcorn and smart ass comments, as we know. Reina is an absolute legend. So that's fantastic. If anybody has any questions, pop them into the chat. I should not clap in front of my microphone. That is bad.
Just don't knock the microphone off the table.
Yeah, so it really, you want to know how to make Pat crazy? Okay,
Stop
2 ways to
knocking
make
the
Pat crazy.
microphone.
I'm sure someone, so if anybody ever wanted to know how to make Pat crazy, 1, knock your microphone during a live.
Oh, that's so annoying.
Crazy.
Everyone.
Okay, that's 1.
It annoys
2,
everyone.
let your devices go to where the battery shows red and it's at 10%,
That's a
and then take a
classic.
screenshot and text it to him. Makes him bananas. Pat is voted as most likely to die with all his devices fully charged. Just saying.
That's me.
All right. It's true. Anybody else? Are you more in the Pat category where everything's always fully charged and plugged in? Or are you like me where I'm always running at 10%, where it's I'm just using it and then I'm like, oh yeah, I should charge it. I don't know what that says about you. I don't know if it says anything about you, but I'm definitely, Pat was born crazy. True story. All right, let's get into questions. Okay, so Jamie asked a really great question. She says, I have told a few warm clients about my premium program and we are due for a call. What is the best way to approach this call when someone is interested? So she says that she had one client who said she was ready on the call, and then last minute she decided she couldn't afford it. And Jamie clarifies that warm means they've already worked with her before, they have taken her yoga membership, whatever. So the first thing I'm going to say is that if somebody believes that they can't afford it, it's because you either haven't gotten deep enough into their pain and helped them see what their pain is costing them. So, what is their problem costing them to either maintain? So a lot of people maintain their problems, right? So if let's say you have a problem with your weight, the way that you maintain that problem is you eat out a lot, you escape a lot, you buy yourself clothes in various sizes. There's a cost to all of this.
I'm sorry.
You don't.
You just because I have to put the question on the screen, right? And then when you're too low, then the question. Yeah, all right.
Okay then.
No one is in control of the plane now.
No one's flying. Who's flying this plane? Okay. So anyway, all this to say, so it first of all, your client, in this case, Jamie, may not realize, and you have not done a good enough job painting for her, what the cost is of her continuing to have this problem, what it is costing her to have this problem. So if you're a health coach, if you're a diet coach, your clients are paying constantly to find piecemeal solutions. They may have medical costs as a related to their health. They may have other costs that are stacking up, like, if they're obese, so they're not feeling very good, or they have health conditions that prevent them from working to their full capacity. There may be lost income if they're burnt out and they've had to quit their job. It's like whatever they were making in the past, you multiply that by, oh, I hear a lot of train background. You multiply that by the number of years that they haven't been working, or what that would be projected in the future, right? So they're losing that income. So you have to think about, what is it costing them? What is it costing them to not get help? Like, there's the financial cost, obviously, but there's also the emotional cost. There's the relational cost. When somebody is not their best self, it wears on their relationships. It prevents them from forming new relationships or deepening existing relationships. There's a lot of guilt. There's often a lot of shame. And when people carry all of that, it definitely lowers their vibration. And whether or not you believe in vibration or frequency or any of that, I mean, you don't even have to believe in any of this. Think about it. It colors somebody's energy. It colors the way they show up. And the way you show up determines what you attract into your life. Right? Somebody who's high vibe, who has a lot of energy, who's happy and content and abundant, and you can feel that their vibe is open and fun, you're going to want to spend time with that person, right? If that person invites you to do something, you're going to want to do it. If that person is like, hey, I can help you build this successful thing or do this thing more successfully, then you're much more likely to be influenced by somebody with that vibe, as opposed to somebody who's like, wah, or always complaining or kind of anxious, or like makes, anxiety can be contagious too. So all of that is what you need to know about your client to help them see all the stacked up financial, psychological, emotional, relational costs of continuing to have their problem, continuing to quest for solutions. How much time are they wasting? How much time are they wasting having their problem? How much time are they wasting looking for a solution that's not working for them? And then you present your solution as something that's going to fix all of the different pieces all at one place, right? And that's what you do. And when you do it that way, if your client is the right fit, and obviously you should not be making them an offer if they're not, then it becomes a no-brainer, because it is so simple to make a decision to be like, oh my God, if I put this money in now, I will be free of this problem finally, because all of the pieces that are creating this problem, the emotional pieces, the psychological pieces, the spiritual pieces, the physical pieces, all of those pieces are being spoken to, all of those pieces are being dealt with in the same place. And therefore, I'm actually going to get a global solution that is customized and tailored for me. Duh. Yes, please. Right? So if you haven't put those two pieces together, that's typically where this process will break. The other thing I was going to say is that you may have some push-pull still with your pricing. So another thing that I see, especially with our clients, is if you're not fully enrolled in your program at your price point, you're going to have trouble enrolling others. Very simple, right? You can't lead somebody somewhere that you haven't been and aren't confident taking them. So again, this is not about confidence in your program. That's obviously a piece of it as well. But assuming you have confidence in your program, if you're not fully comfortable and embodied with your pricing, then that's going to create that as well. So, in our program, when we work with clients, one of the things that I'll get them to do is to really list out a whole bunch of reasons that your program is the absolute freaking best thing since sliced bread. Right? If you can come up with 50 or 100 reasons, that's a lot, and you're going to struggle to do it. But first of all, it's going to clarify your intention with your program. You're going to get crystal freaking clear about why your program is the absolute best solution out there. And then you're going to, by solidifying, ultimately that exercise is meant to sell you on your own program. Once you're sold, it's going to be much easier to get a whole bunch of other people sold as well, because then you're all in energetically, and then it's going to be so much easier for them to be all in too. So that's my answer to Jamie. Does that help? Does that help? Yes. Okay, cool. Amazing. So, so Dennis's question is, would I rather be a pirate or a ninja? Do I have to choose? Do I have to choose? Why? I think I would rather be a ninja. Because pirates don't wash their feet. I'd rather be a ninja. So, okay. Next question is really quick one from Al. This is a very simple thing, and lots of you ask me this all the time, so I'm going to answer it really quick. I'm curious about, he had two questions actually. He had one question, which is, what is the software that we use to make these lives look so pretty? The real answer is we use PAT, but the software that we use is Ecamm Live. That's ECAMM Live. That if you're a Mac person, then you can use Ecamm. It is only for Mac from what I hear. There is StreamYard, I believe, is a PC solution. I have not personally used StreamYard, but I hear it's really great. We use Ecamm Live. It is freaking amazing. It basically turns your computer into a full like studio switchboard. You can have clips that you can play. You can have music, as you've seen. We have like a music opening that plays. You can put supers on the screen. You can do all of these things. And technically, I could do all of this at my own computer, and one person could, like, I could be on camera and I could do this myself and click through it. But because I'm spoiled rotten and I have bad live produced spoiled rotten.
I'm going to try to put the link in the comments.
Perfect. Pat's going to put the link in the comment section. So if you're looking for the software that we're using, Pat will help you out and put the link in the comments. But what Pat does for us is that he actually, you have your mic hot? I can hear the tweet through mic, just so we're clear. What Pat does is he live produces it. So we actually have our computers linked up and he is producing it while I'm talking. So you can see my hands. Look, no hands. So he can change all the things on the screen without me touching anything. Yay. Okay, cool. Dennis says he's using Uscreen now or something like that. So cool. Many use StreamYard. Perfect. So awesome. So here we go. So Al had another question. He says, I'm curious about how long it took you to become comfortable doing videos. Did you practice a lot before doing a live? Such a great question. So my background to video is that I used to work in television, but I fell into television. It was a complete accident. It's actually a great story. It's the story of how I met Pat. Do you want to hear it? It's our anniversary today. 16 years we've been together today. So I feel like it's a good time to tell the story.
Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary. I should have worn my Thelma Flintstone top today. Opportunity missed. But I was going to say, okay, do you want to hear the story of how Pat and I met and how it pertains to this answer? Give me a yes in the comments if you want it. So here's what happened. I had moved to Canada. I had met another French Canadian while I was living in Singapore. So I was working as a journalist in Singapore, and then my contract ended. And then we were kind of like, okay, we could go to Montreal or we could go to Mumbai. And I'd taken French as a fourth language in school. And I was like, I'll move to Montreal and live la vie en rose. Little realizing that, high school French is really not the same as spoken French, and definitely not the same as Quebec spoken French, which was a whole nother animal. But whatever, me, I'm up for anything. I was the more mobile of the two anyway. I was a journalist, right? So anywhere I could plug my laptop in was home. So I was like, yeah, sure, what the heck? Worst case, I'll hate it and then I'll move back home. So I moved to Montreal. Long story short, I had moved countries and we'd moved circumstances, and our problems in that particular relationship remained exactly the same. And I was like, I'm beginning to see a pattern here, and I don't think I want to live in it for the rest of my life. So I made the decision to break up, and it was so it was such a heavy decision, because not only was I breaking up with him, and I was like, obviously the devastation of breaking someone's heart and like just, separating after a 3-year relationship, but we were minutes away from my paperwork coming through, making it legal for me to work in Canada. And I was like, wow, like just so close. But I was like, you know what? I'm not going to wait until papers come through to then do, like, that felt really out of integrity. So I was like, you know what? I'm really sorry. And if you just, if papers don't come through, then so be it. I'll just move back and see what happens. Right in that moment, I received a phone call from someone I had met at a writer's workshop. And she worked for a production house. Get this. They had they were rebranding they had all these different ethnic shows. So the Greek show in Greek, and the Armenian show in Armenian, and the Indian show, because there's 22 official languages in India, was in English. They had a male co-host and a female co-host, and they were just like, they had rebranded their show and were about to relaunch. And their female co-host had given them the wrong phone number, and they were a week away from taping their pilot, and she had just disappeared off the face of the earth, and they couldn't contact her. So this girl that I had just met was like, you know who? I just met this Indian girl. She would be perfect. So I got a phone call, and they were like, we got your number from Natalie. And I'm so bad with names. So I'm like, who the heck's Natalie? But I played it cool, like this happens to me all the time. So I was like, yeah, sure, absolutely. Like, what do you need me to do? So they invited me in to do a screen test. And the guy who did the screen test was none other than Pat. And the second I saw him, it was like this really weird thing where I looked at him, and this was this multi-story TV studio building, right? And I was coming in for my screen test. I was a few minutes late because we had gotten lost. Also a story of my life. And I came to the bottom, and he was there, and he smoked at the time. So he was smoking a cigarette. And I was like, that's Pat. And I'd never seen him before. We'd only had a conversation on the phone to just prep me for what I had to do for my audition. And I hear a voice very clearly in my head saying, that's Pat. I know him. And I was like, I know you. That's what the voice said. It was like, I know you. It was this deep sense of recognition, not I'm falling in love with you. Right? Oh, he was very hot, as you've seen him. But I was like, it was really the sense of recognition. And my conscious mind is like, dude, you can't possibly know that. This is there's 23 floors on this building. He could be anybody. And I was like, except it's him. And then I go inside, he opens the door for me, and then we go in to sign the thing. And he was like, hey, I'm Pat. And I was like, I know. And that was kind of how this whole deal started. So
you're so sweet. You're so it's sweet,
true. Cindy. It's so true.
And then we married twice.
And then we got married twice to each other. So anyway. So how long did it take me to become comfortable doing videos? Wow, that was a long answer to that question. I did the screen test. I got the job. It's so funny. I would go in and tape a half-hour segment that was what they call live to tape, which means it's shot and there's not really much editing. So it's as if it were live, but it was actually taped. And then it's played live on the day, or played from the tape on the day, sorry. And I used to have to go home and take a nap. And I was in my 20s. I'm even now, I have a lot of energy. I had a lot of energy, but I felt like the camera would just kind of suck the energy out of me. And it was not at all. And I've been on stage my whole life. I've been, doing theater since I was 3. So I've done that my whole life. And I understood how to bounce energy with an audience. But being, especially with a TV camera, those are really big like that. It was really hard. I found it a very different animal. So if you're struggling with it, I want you to know you're not by any means alone. The other thing about that is you get to watch the tape, and this is before social. I don't think it existed yet. And I didn't have a lot of opportunity to see myself on screen at the time. I hadn't worked in television yet. And so when I watched the tape, when I watched the show of me doing my thing, I was horrified. I was mortified. Do you remember? I don't know, Babu, if you remember me. I was like, does my face actually do that all the time? And he was like, does your face do what?
No, I was completely in love. I was not seeing what you were seeing. I was like, oh my God, so I was
mortified. I was like, my voice sounds weird and squeaky, because obviously my voice sounds different in my head because of the reverb in my bones to actually what it sounds like on tape. I'm used to it now because I've done years and years of it, but back in the day, so if anyone's in that place where this is brand new to you, here's what I want you to know. Every single producer that I worked with told me that I was one of the most talented on-camera people that they had ever met. I want you to think about this. I'm not telling you this to brag. I'm telling you this to see that despite supposedly being one of the most talented people, that some of these people had worked in the industry for 20 plus years. If I was that talented, how come I needed a nap after shooting something for half an hour, right? I just want you to know that talent and what it felt like in the moment, those two things felt like they were worlds apart. All the talent in the world didn't make the experience of doing it feel that natural. I found it. I found my voice. At some point, you find your energy. You find a way to bounce your energy off the camera. Now it's effortless to me. Now it's very, very enjoyable. I can do it at the drop of a hat. It doesn't scare me or faze me. There's no adrenaline rush. It's very natural to me. But you get there. So if you're in that place where you're still developing your voice, you're developing your persona, that's normal. It's a normal part, and it is not a reflection on your ability or your talent, because I can tell you I had both, and it was still freaking hard. And the hardest part of it was that inner critic who was like, what is your face doing? What is your voice doing? And I really struggled with that. And I swear it took me close to 2 years Back in the day, social has made that very different. Now people take selfies all the time. This was before smartphones didn't exist. Like, I'm old, okay? Smartphones didn't exist when I got my start in television. We were still doing those like flippy phone things. So people, like, I don't even think no, that was before the flippy phone things. It was before the flippy phone things. That's how long ago this was. And so now it's much easier because you have your camera on your phone all the time, that you don't feel, most people anyway, don't feel that oh my God feeling. But for me, it was like I went from 0 to on television, and that was like, it was a lot. So now, do I prep for lives? Yes, to some extent. I'm not prepping for the performance piece of it. I don't have to psych myself up or anything like that. But I also want to make sure that my content is solid. So yes, I do take an hour to prep each week for my live. And that includes writing my notes, my bullet points, organizing it, writing the post that goes out with it. All of that fits in that hour. So hopefully that answers your question. All right, cool. Yeah, I am so outlining your whole pain and bliss list. Absolutely.
I have a few questions also that I just snagged from the comments. I think I had one from Evan Jensen. Did you see it? What are some of your clients?
What are some of your client success stories, starting from a rough idea to making a profit? I don't know if we want to talk about this a very, very long time, because you can actually watch some of those videos in the media section here. You can find them on YouTube. There are, I can post a bunch of links where you can watch my own clients tell their stories of success. One comes off the top of my head. I can think of, is Melissa here? Melissa, you here? So she was a client of ours. So this is Melissa Gale. She has a history. So she has a history of trauma. That, she was sex trafficked from the ages of 2 to 25. So serious trauma that she had to get over, that she developed her own methodology around. And she actually coaches on our team now with some of our clients that bring in, deep trauma patterns so that we can help them. But anyway, when she came to us, before we'd ever worked together, before I'd ever heard of her, she came to us and she was like, okay, I need to figure this out. And I remember she was sometimes people come to us and they're in a really difficult place. She didn't have a lot of money in her bank account. She's written a post about this somewhere in this group. So if you're in the Facebook group in Messaging That Makes Money, go take a look down, scroll it, or look for Melissa Gale and you'll see her post. She put down, I broke the rules and let her put down like a really small deposit, because she literally had just enough money for groceries and like that teeny deposit. And I was like, all right, if that's your commitment, then I will honor that commitment. She figured out a way. She went and found the rest of the money. She came and she worked with us. And right when she was about to launch, the pandemic happened and the world shut down. Like literally the same week or something. I can't remember the exact timeline. And she was like, oh my God. And then she made like $28,000, close to $30,000 in her first week. So 9 weeks into our program. So she didn't make the money in the 8 weeks, but in the 9th week, she went from 0 to 28K. So that's one of the client success stories. I won't spend too much time here because there's so many other ways for you to experience this in much, much greater detail. And there are so many other questions that I have to get to. So hopefully that gives you a sense of what we need. So I think maybe what you're asking me, Evan, is who is a good client for you? Who would get results like that? And that I can answer. That's a great question, because see what I just did there? We teach this in the program. You always have to answer the real question, the question under the question. Listen for the question under the question. This is a skill that we teach, because that's going to help you get much, much deeper into where your client is, what your client actually needs from you, and where your client's pain actually lives. And then you can fix the real thing and not some surface level thing. So if you want to know who our ideal client is, it has to be someone who, typically our clients are type A overachiever types, like me, okay, who are now finding this more flowy, balanced, or are seeking that more flowy, balanced space. So they're not playing from a place of scarcity, of having to prove anything. They're not, driven to the point of exhaustion. There's none of that anymore, or they're walking away from that and trying to create something different. They're aware of that, but they're very driven, very ambitious people. Typically, that's who we work with. Now, some of them are brand spanking new to the online space, but they're coming from having worked in their field offline, let's say, or in real life with, face-to-face contact or whatever, for a number of years. Sometimes they're new to what they're about to launch, but they have deep experience. Melissa would be a great example of this, deep experience in their methodology because they have been their own best client. So the number one thing that we look for is if one of your clients paid you $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 to work with you, how sure are you on a scale of 1 to 10 that they would get the result that they desired, that they would get the result that you promised them? Are you super confident in your ability to create transformation? If the answer to that is yes, then you are a good fit for us. If the answer to that is I'm not sure or I don't know, then you may be too early in the process. And the Facebook group is a great place for you to test our materials, for you to get free resources from us, for you to try before you buy. Okay, because you're not ready for the real thing. So our 8-week program is an intensive. It assumes that you're kick-ass at what you do. You may not have had other clients, but you are definitely your own best client. And that journey, that process is clear. We teach you how to systematize it. We teach you how to map it out. We teach you exactly who your ideal clients are and all of those details that we teach you how to do. We teach you how to articulate it. We teach you how to sell at a premium. We teach you how to get press for it. We teach you all of those pieces. But if you're not rock solid in your methodology, adding all that stuff is only going to make you feel more insecure, and you're never going to make a sale from that place. So that's hopefully an answer to that question. So Evan says yes. Okay, perfect. Yeah. So Melissa, yeah, there you go. Melissa posted the link in the comments. So if you want to see Melissa breaking it down in her own words, what exactly her financial ROI was, etc., please go check out that link. Thank you, Melissa, for sharing it. You're such an awesome person.
Have you seen?
So Hinda asks me a really great question. She says, what is the number one thing that made your business take a giant leap forward? And I had to think about this one. And I was like, is it one thing? Could it even be one thing? And as I was thinking about it, I realized that if I were to boil it all down to one thing, what I would say that one thing is I gave myself permission to believe. It was permission. So I don't know if you know this, and this actually speaks to another question. So I'm going to read Nitika's question because it actually speaks to this, and I'm going to do the two questions together. She says, oh yeah, I would love to hear about your journey from where you started your business by yourself to where you now have a team that takes care of stuff. How did you make the decisions you did? And then she also asks about how do you manage running a company and taking care of the home bits? How much of your day is spent doing business? And I'll go get into the details of that. But I think it's really a question of work-life integration, and then how did I build this up to what it is now, which is an actual organization, not just like one person doing all of the things. So the answer to that is super interesting. I've written an article on Entrepreneur Magazine. So Entrepreneur on .com. If you Google Geeta Nadkarni, entrepreneur.com, you'll see it. It's called How Hiring a VA Changed My Life and My Business, I think is the name of the article. If someone can just go find it and pop it in the comments, I will be eternally grateful. That would be super cool. So I wrote out my process. So I made my first hire long before I needed a VA, technically, by most other people's standards. I should qualify that because I hired her at exactly the right moment. I hired her at the beginning when I was like, now that I understood what I was going to do, the second you know what you're going to build and you realize that you're going to need help with it, that's the right time to hire. Sometimes it means hiring a VA, sometimes it means hiring a coach, and sometimes it means hiring both, which is what I did. So I had purchased coaching already. And then once I understood, thanks to the coaching, I now had a plan. Now that I had a plan, I was like, oh my God, like I'm somebody who has like 17 million ideas a minute. I'm a visionary in the dictionary. Like visionaries are great. It sounds beautiful, right? And there's a lot of strength that we bring to the table. However, the downside is that we have so many ideas, like constant. We're very creative. We're very multi-passionate. We're always reading 17 books at the same time. We're always like connecting these disparate ideas. That's part of what makes us really freaking good at what we do. But it makes it really difficult to stay focused. Our follow-through sucks. True story. Follow-through is really low. its details become very, very draining. So it's not like we can't do it. We do it. And I mean, I get shit done, but it's hard for me. It is not energizing to me. So I knew all of this. So one of the things I did was I took a Kolbe A assessment. Kolbe is the name of the test, Kolbe A assessment. Oh, thank you. Amanda just put the link into Entrepreneur in the chat. And so did Pat. Thank you. Thank you. So thank you, Amanda. So, so what you want to do is you want to make sure you know what your strengths are. And if you're a high follow through person, a high research person, then you want to be like, you want to make sure you hire a coach that will give you the strategy that you can then implement and follow through on. If you're a big fat visionary like me, right, then you might need both those pieces where you need the coach to kind of give you the plan where all your ideas aren't just like pulling you in all these different directions. And then you might need a VA, even like super duper part time, because when I hired a VA, just so you know, I had $300 left in my bank account. And I owed her $500 at the end of the month. And I had no idea where I was going to get that money from. So I took a pretty big leap. And I was super honest with her. And I was like, I know I am smart enough and driven enough that if you can be the boss of me and keep me on track, that you will more than pay for yourself. I was sure of that. And I knew that. So Hinda, if you're like, that permission piece was when I started to see genuine possibility to replace my, at the time, you know, I felt like I made a lot of money in television, right? Now we make more in a month than I used to make all year. But at the time, that was the most money I'd ever made in my life. And I was like, how do I replace my corporate revenue, my corporate income, doing what I loved? And my goal in life was to make like 60 grand a year. Like I was like, if I could make 60 grand a year doing what I love and doing it for myself, like that would be angels. And so at that point, and I made like 70 something, 75 or something back in the day in television. But like for my first year, I was like, if I can hit 60 grand, then that will be worth it. And when I knew that that's what I was playing for, I also understood I was going from 0 to 60 grand. Okay, that was going to take elbow grease and that was going to take investment. And I thought, I'm willing to invest in the front end to get that kind of return on investment. I ended up making what did we make our first year? Close to 200 grand our first year. Slightly below, like it was 180 something, I think. I don't remember now. It was a while ago, but it was around that first year. And the only reason I was able to get there is because I was like, that's where I'm going. So a huge piece of this, Hinda and Nitika, is write your vision. Get that book, Vivid Vision, if you want a guide to it. We teach this in our program, but get the book Vivid Vision by Cameron Herold and sit down and map out your actual vision. Because when you understand, and I recently did this, and so we just wrote, and I would love to share it with you. Would you guys like to see my vision for where I see our company in 2023? Because we're 2020 now, so 2023. If any of you would like to see that vision, just let me know in the comments and I'll post it for you so you can read it and you can see exactly where I see us going. Okay, so I recently sat down and redid my vision and I looked at what does the next 3 years look like for us. And knowing where we're going, again, it's a gigantic leap based on where we're at. 2 arms of the company don't even exist yet. Okay, we're gonna change the way this company looks from the inside. It's huge. It's crazy. It's unreasonable. Any other unreasonable people in the house? God, Gary, member of this clan, right? Yes. Okay. So yeah, Kundan saw the TED Talk for Vivid Vision. Do it. It's such a good book and it's such a good idea. It's such a good piece to do. It's such a good exercise, to do. So anyway, all this to say, when I saw my vision, I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to get there in this time frame by myself or by pussyfooting around trying to guess how to do it. My job in life is now to figure out the right who. Who is the person? Who are the people that are going to help me change my mindset, that are going to help me acquire the skills, or that have the skills that I can plug into my company that are going to take us forward? So yes, it's a lot of investment. And yes, it is a risk and a leap, but I have done it now multiple times in my life. And it has always been the right thing for me to do. Does that mean it's going to be the right thing for you to do? That's up to you to decide. I cannot decide that for you. But I know that when I am clear, when I can feel the energy of my vision in my body, and I'm like, okay, and again, I've done a whole other live. Last week's live was on setting goals. I don't set financial goals. The financial piece is like a teeny tiny detail on the vision. It's not the main piece by any stretch of the imagination, right? What I'm really thinking about is, what is the feeling I want to invoke? What is the everyday emotional exhilaration that I want to feel? Like, what is the day to day that I want to feel when I wake up in the morning and I do the work of running this business? Not like, here's my spreadsheet. Like, that's like, that lasts for 3 seconds. You look at your spreadsheet and you're like, yay, we made that. Then what? Then what do you do? Right? So for me, it's all about like, all the hours when they compound, does that make me feel good, or does that make me feel depleted? And I always want to make sure it's something that makes me feel good. And then once I have a sense of that, then I'm like, I'm playing for that. What would I be willing to pay for that? And usually it's significantly more than I thought it was. And it gives me permission. And once I know what I'm buying, once I know what I want to feel, like what that vision looks like and feels like in my body, then it becomes really easy for me to interview the right people. Like we recently expanded our team, and within 5 minutes of talking to every single person, I knew they're like, yes, no, no, no. I just knew. And the yes person is a fucking unicorn. Like, I mean, unicorn, I'm telling you. Like, I just hired the absolute best person for the job, and he fell into my lap. How? Because, thank you. Oh,
you feel it?
am I looking really sweaty?
Well, no, you seem like you were very warm.
Thank you.
Well,
that just came and turned on the fan, so that now I have a wind machine.
What?
Yes, this is true. So all this to say that I'm a huge believer in knowing what you're playing for and then relentlessly investing in yourself and your vision. So you're investing in your vision for that future that you're creating, for the impact that you're going to have on people. Not just like, okay, I want to make X amount of dollars. Like for me anyway, it has never been enough of a driver. It never motivates me for more than 10 minutes after like you do the exercise and you're like, yay, and then you stick it on your wall and then it just makes you feel bad because you're not there yet. Like that doesn't work for me. So for me, it's all about the emotional connection I want to create. Yeah. So I think that, and if you're feeling stuck about hiring, so Nitika asked me, I would love to hear the journey of how you started your business by yourself. I never started my business by myself. From pretty much week one, I hired somebody, and my hiring process has always been the same. First, I get crystal clear on the feeling of the person that I want to have. How do I want to feel when this person is in my life? And then that person always appears, like always. It's not very scientific. I can't give you a spreadsheet to back it up. I can't give you a job description for this. We have all of those pieces that come after this, but first I have to get clear and I have to know what I'm looking for. That's how I know to recognize it. I'm also someone who constantly affirms and practices my own belief system that A, I always make the right decision, and B, there's an affirmation on my phone that says I'm determined to see. Pat makes fun of me when this one pops up because it sometimes pops up in the evenings. And he's like, what do you see? And I was like, all the things. I see what's underneath. I see what's inside things. And that really excites me. So for me, it's being determined to see. And it reminds me when I see that affirmation also that sometimes I'll see things that I'm uncomfortable with, right? Sometimes I'll see things that make me insecure or that make me worried or that make me that trigger any of the natural negative emotions that all of us carry around. And then that's my opportunity to sit with those emotions and let them go so that I can be clean for whatever it is I'm building next. Does that answer your question at all? It's not a very linear response, but that is my actual process for how I do this. Okay, so another question. How do you manage running a company and taking care of the home bits? How much of your day is spent doing business? So prior to COVID, I worked probably 30 hours a week, roughly. Yeah, I would say 30 hours a week doing tasks in the business, coaching, looking at tickets, talking to team members, meetings, the occasional epiphany sessions. And at one point I was doing a bunch of them. So epiphany sessions, that sort of thing. that would probably fit into 30 hours. And then I would take Fridays off, and Fridays were my like buffer days. So it's like I would do personal appointments, get a haircut, go for a walk, go for a long run, um, sit and read a book, do business reading, do planning. Or sometimes it would be I would sit and I would look at the things that needed fixing. Like if we had some urgent issues in the business, then I would sit and I would just look at like, how do I plan for the future around this? How do I take care of all of these pieces? So that's how it was. Now, post COVID, now that we homeschool and we have two kids, 8 and 4, first of all, there's a significant age gap between the two. So we have to be balancing their activities is usually great, but not always, because they're not close in age and they don't always want to do the same things or can't always do the same things. Pat has been an absolute king in this respect. I mean, the way that we've been able to flow between roles, like we're both nurturers, we can both cook, we can both be with the kids, we can both do either job, like either he can work and so the one thing you'll notice is, except for this live, which is pretty much the only thing we ever do during office hours together, we're never together during the workday anymore. So if we have meetings, we literally have 5 a.m. like leadership meetings before our kids wake up at 6. That's when we meet. I'm an early bird, so if that makes you want to throw up, that's totally fine. We're early people. So that matches our energy. For you, it might be an evening meeting. I am useless in the evening. At 7 o'clock, I begin to drool. Like my brain shuts down and I don't want to talk to anybody. And I definitely don't want to make any decisions. So I'm a huge believer in respecting your energy. This is not about managing time. This is about managing energy. I keep my heaviest, where my decisions matter the most, where I have to do the deepest thinking, where, my emotional intelligence has to be on point. All of those decisions I try and front load to the top of my day, because as the day goes on, I get more fatigued. And then, I do more intuitive stuff, or sometimes I'll do performative stuff like this. I don't mind doing this at 2 or 3 in the afternoon because it energizes me. I'm an extrovert and I know how to bounce my energy off the camera. So spending time here with you, I like doing that. So I'll schedule it for now, because I know that if I were to sit and try to write something in this moment, I'd be useless. Useless. Us chatting, this is cool. This is fun. Does that make sense? So knowing where your energy fits is really helpful. And now what Pat and I do is, on Sunday nights, we have a meeting and we look at our week and we try and block off. So we have blocks. So like, this is Geeta's work block, and then it'll be blocked off in Pat's calendar, and he's with the kids. And then Pat will have his work block, and then it's blocked off in my calendar so no one can book appointments. And Sarah, who manages my calendar, she knows, and she's always in touch with Pat anyway. They communicate more than she and I do. So she knows what blocks to protect, and she's very careful. That's the other thing. When you do hire a VA, so when you're first starting, you may need to hire whoever you need to hire. Always, it's like hiring a VA or any kind of help. Here's my number one rule for hiring help of any kind: marry up. Right? It's like, just you don't want to marry somebody who's like lesser than you, that you don't respect. You want to marry someone where you're like, oh my God, I cannot believe they're marrying me. Like, what? Like, this is amazing. That's who you want to marry. That's who you want to hire. You want to hire someone where you're like, oh my God, I can't believe this person wants to be on my team. This is amazing. Every single person I've ever hired, I felt that way about. And that, to me, is my secret of success. So what I do is because we hired Sarah and she's a very experienced, she's not a VA, she's an executive assistant. She has worked with executives before, and she's very experienced at managing them. And I will tell you this, I read somewhere that Mark Zuckerberg credits a lot of his success as a CEO to his executive assistant. She was an older woman. She was very experienced when she started working for him. And because of her experience, and because she helped manage him and his time and his schedule, and helped him, kind of mentored him almost, he managed to become an executive. He went from being like a founder to an actual executive to a CEO much, much faster. A lot of us are hiring kind of beneath our station. And so we're having to train them and guide them instead of it being the other way around. And so I'm a huge believer in hiring up whenever possible. Yes, it's more expensive, and 100% of the time they will pay for themselves, because the amount of bandwidth that they will free up for you, the amount of stress that they will diminish for you, and the amount of opportunity that this will create for you, and especially just like you believing in yourself enough to hire up, just that, like energetically is fucking, it's really powerful. So that's my kind of answer to that, is that Sarah, the reason I mentioned this is because Sarah is amazing. She and Pat yesterday were bullying me in our leadership meeting because they were like, you have too much on your plate. You have too much in your calendar. I'm cutting this. I'm cutting that. Like, you can't do this. You can't do that. So the two of them gang up on me, and they actually make sure that I don't overbook myself, because I'm a super high energy extrovert person. So my impulse is to cram my schedule with too much shit. And then, I'll hit a wall. And I don't, I'm not the bestest at managing my energy brilliantly that way, because I'm so enthusiastic and I care deeply. And what's beautiful is to have a team that sees that and that nourishes me and nurtures me, and kind of like, Sarah's the consummate mom. So she's just like, dude, you can't do that. You're burning the candle at both ends. Like, don't do it. I'm cutting this thing. This is going to be your block to just chillax. And like, it's a beautiful thing. So I now work probably like this week and next week, I'm working more. So I'm probably working 35 hours because we have new people on the team and I need to train them. So I won't lie to you, like it's a heavier week because training always takes more time. And they're amazing and they're going so fast that I want to be available to we're building some systems too, so that in the future when we hire more people, it's not going to be extra time. Yes. Love systems. Used to be a total anarchist. Now I'm all about the processes. Life-changing.
Wait. Did you just call yourself an anarchist?
You used to call me the queen of chaos.
Chaos, right? Yes. Anarchy. Okay.
I'm a chaos. Yeah, that's true. I'm not an anarchist. That's true. That's maybe pushing it. I was more a chaosist. That's not a thing.
No,
it's a thing now.
No, not a thing.
Used to be my thing.
Next
it was
question.
A real thing. Next question. Okay, moving on. Okay, so I have always one more question. Okay. How do you transition from not making much and being overwhelmed with the low priority stuff that takes up time to allowing yourself permission, there's that word, and trusting that things will flow? So a huge part of giving myself permission is, again, being really crystal clear in the vision, and then doing the subconscious blocks exercise. You knew it was coming. Come on, you knew it was coming, right? Let's do it. Okay. So always creates a mess, and it's going to make you feel really pissed off with yourself. But if you have the vision first, where anything's possible, everything's allowed, all the things are, you just play big and have a play date with God, basically. That's vision. And then the production meeting is where you come in and you're like, okay, how do I break this down and make it into a thing? Like, how do I create a process that's going to get me there? What is the next baby step that I need to take to backwards engineer to where I want to go? Do you see what I'm saying? So those have to be two separate things. If you do them together, so Nitika, even in your question, you're kind of doing both of those two things together, where you're like, how do I give up the low priority stuff and give myself permission? You do it by being crystal clear on your vision. So first get clear on your vision and make sure you do the subconscious blocks exercise. Once you're clear about what the vision is, then figure out what inhibitors and limiters you have within yourself. So if you go to impactwithinfluence.com/subconscious, we've created a pretty link so that it's easy for people to find, and probably somebody will link it in the comments here. And it's on the screen, perfect. So what you will be able to do is once you have your vision, you're going to be able to see what your own internal blocks to that vision are. That's what prevents you from giving yourself permission. So that actually is the short answer to both Hinda's and Nitika's questions is how do you give yourself permission, Geeta? It's by first being clear on the vision, and secondly, figuring out what my blocks are and then speaking and honoring those blocks so that I can release their energy and they're no longer blocks. Now they're agreements that I have with myself and I can move forward. Whether that moving forward is doing something myself, hiring somebody else to do it, hiring somebody to teach me how to do it, whatever that looks like. Now I'm free to make that decision and I do it from an aligned place, not from a place of scarcity. So that's my answer to that. All right. Okay, we're getting to almost the top of the hour, so I just want to pop a quick link to say, if you've been watching this and you're somebody who is an absolute expert at what you do because you have either helped a whole bunch of people go through a transformation, or you are your own best case study where you have gone through this phenomenal transformation and you want to bring this transformation to others and you're looking for a way to build it out, systematize it, processize it, put it out online, articulate it, sell it, and then build an audience around it. If you want help with those pieces, you've got the expertise, that's your part, obviously. But if you want help with all of those pieces, then use the link that's on the screen somewhere or around this video to book a call to talk to somebody on my team to see if you're a fit for what we do and if we can help you, because what we specialize in doing is what I just talked about, helping you get crystal clear on exactly what it is you want, helping you figure out what are your inhibitors to it, what are your own internal limiters and inhibitors, because if you don't deal with those first, no amount of tactical help, no amount of funnels or sales scripts or any of that crap is going to help you, because you are not actually safe to receive it. So if that makes sense to you and you want help feeling safe to own your vision and you then want a tactical plan to get after it, then we can help you with both the vision and the production plan. We have both those pieces for you, right? So your job is to get clear on the vision, go read Vivid Vision by Cameron Herold, write out your vision, post it in the group. That would be super cool to see. And then if you would like help and support building it out, then use that link and give us a call. All right, does somebody else have a question? What have you found separates the clients that were able to charge high ticket and succeed and those that weren't able to? It's all about that subconscious block. If you are not sold, and I spoke to this at the very beginning of this call, so go watch that. I don't think you were here, Prerika. I don't think that you were here when I first started this live, but I've already spoken to this. It is when you are not sold on your own pricing. If you aren't clear and if you have just picked an arbitrary number, and I have worked with so many people who've come from other coaching programs where their coach is like, just charge $5,000, it'll be fine. Why do you want to charge $5,000? Because I want to make $5,000. That's a terrible reason to price your program at $5,000. Your program has to be priced based on the value that it creates, the money that and time and energy and emotional grief and relational grief and spiritual grief that it is causing somebody to maintain that problem. I've talked through all of this at the beginning of this live. Go back and check it out. The people who price appropriately don't ever have a problem selling. The people who are not sold internally or have their inhibitors or limiters, they're the ones that can't bring themselves to make the ask. That's what separates those two. All right, that's it for me. Thank you so much for spending your time with me, and I will see you next Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Bye.